Hello and welcome. My name is Python V, and in today's class we will be going through everything we did last week, like from the setup to the HTML tags to input to how we created our buttons, a lot of stuff. So last week class was a little bit bumpy, but today I'll be creating one single video that goes through everything and explaining everything for you in a very simple manner. We talked about creating and setting up HTML in your PC. Now to do that, to start kicking off or to start writing HTML code, every one of us have Visual Studio Code. And if you don't have that, you go download Visual Studio Code. It's very, very important. Now, the second thing I'm going to do is create a folder because all of our website file has to stay in a folder. So it's not imaginary, it's not, abstract. It needs to stay in a folder. And you can do that by just right clicking here, come down to new and create a new folder. Call the folder whatever name you want to call it. And for today, I'm going to call it week 1. So this, we're going to go to week 1, just going everything. We're going to dive right back into everything of week 1. I'm going to click enter. Then this is an empty folder. So if I come here to click, we have an empty folder. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come here, right click, and I'm going to open with code. So quickly, I'm going to open this guy with code, and as you can see, code is opening on my PC. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to come down here to this section. This is your file and folder section. This is your search section, your Git section. You might not have all this because me, I've installed a lot of stuff, so that's why I'm having all this. So I'm going to come to my Explorer section, and I'm going to create the first file, which is index.html. Very important, you must have the HTML file. Then you want to have style.css. So style.css is where we come and style all our code. Index.html is where we write the markup of our code. Now we have two blank code, and as I used to say, we need to format this HTML so that it can be able to write well. We need the boilerplate, the setup. So we have to set up this empty space. To do that, we press shift and 1 to get exclamation. We need the exclamation, and we'll call it emmet. In HTML, we'll call it emmet. So to get it, just press shift and 1 and click enter. Then we have this. You change the title here to whatever suits you. So make sure you don't break the code. In between it, I'm going to say week 1. So we talked about tags. This is a tag, and this is a tag. This is the head tag, which we only use one, and this is the body tag. So it's in the body tag we're writing most of our code, and we want to do that. Now outside there we have our CSS. We need to link it to our HTML. The two of them are apart, but we need to bring them together. So to do that, I'll come here and say link, which is link. I'll look for CSS. You don't need to cram it, but just know that link CSS. Make sure that the name that is here is the same as the name that is here. I'm going to save that. Now we're going to be talking about different tags. We talked about H1 up to H6. We talk about H1 to H6. We talk about paragraph. We write text inside. So I'm going to come here, this side, and I'm going to right click, and I'm going to open with what? Live server. So once I open it with live server, by my left hand side, we have this. So let me just full screen this guy here. So I'm going to write in my H1, I'm going to write Victor, and in my H6, I'm going to write David. In the paragraph, I can put something just to write something. So something is here. So this is, HTML tags. They are elements, and there are many. We have the ones for text tags. We have the one for image tags. We have the one for list, and so many of them. We talked about list. Unordered list, which creates a paper for us, and we can have li inside, and I can say Victor, as you can see, and I can have another li and David. So you can have as many li as possible, but they should stay on their own line. And we have ul, which wraps all the li together. So it's very compulsory you put it inside a ul. There's another one called ol, which is ordered list, which gives us numbers. So if I come and copy this guy here, and I put it in between here, you see we have Victor and David, but with 1 and 2. That is list. in a nutshell. Now we talked about styling, and how do we use styling? We talked about inline styling. So inline styling takes an attribute which you write inside the H1. We don't write it at the end of the H1. We don't write it with the H1, because if you write it with the H1, it will just be like say you're writing style, H1 and style. So we write the attribute, on its own line. We can say style. Sorry, I say style, which is equals to. So it's in between this quotation mark. We're going to write our code. So in between here, don't write it outside here. Don't write it before here. Don't write it in between here. Write it outside here. So style, and it takes a lot of property, millions of properties. Style is an attribute which takes a lot of properties. So I can say my nose is a style itself. So what are the properties of my nose? It could be long, fair in color, dark, wide. So the first property we talked about was color, which colors the text, and I said red. So once I check up, I see red. Now note, every color, every properties have this ending, semicolon that ends everything. So color is equals to red. So take note, if you're writing another property, like let's say font size, if I come here, I have to go on its own line and say font size. I say font size is equals to 30 pixels, and it can get bigger or smaller. So I can make it 50, and boom, it goes bigger. So that's inline styling in a nutshell. What about internal styling? We are still inside the HTML, but we style it internally. We don't write it on the line. We go to the top of the head and we create a special tag that is going to allow us to style it. And the name of this tag is called style itself, because we use style here. We're going to use style here. I'll say style. There's so many things you need to know about style. So style is a tag, is an attribute. So style here is an attribute. Style here is a tag. Why do we have style as a tag? Because it allows us to write CSS code here. We can't come and write CSS code here like saying color. You see, it doesn't give us a suggestion and say red. It's wrong. It needs to be inside either a style attribute, which is this guy here, or inside a style tag. So I'm going to come here. Inside the style tag, HTML helps us to wrap it so that it can write CSS styling inside this tag. So I can come here and say P color is equals to red. And you see that P changes to red. Now, note, these brackets here are called brackets. They're like covering our styles. So every element needs to have its own bracket. And you can have multiple properties, color, font size. Now, once this is broken, it's not good. It spoils and it destructs your code. So we always love to have it covered. And if you want to write more, maybe you want to write for UL, you need to come under its own line here and do its own. So I call them curly brackets, which help us to write properties inside for a particular element. So for UL, I'm going to write background red, and boom, it turns it red. So that is styling when it comes to internal styling. Now, what of external styling? And that's because we created this guy here, because it is outside our page. Now, we've linked this guy here by saying link style.css. So if I come here and I say background color, now note, in style.css, we don't write HTML code. So HTML code won't work here. So write CSS code. And how do you write CSS code? We can pick up the tag OL and style it. And we can say OL background color blue. And boom, it changes to blue. Now, how do we style in CSS? We style by using tags, we style by using class, we style by using ID. These are the three guys we use to style. Now, let's try and style by using tag. Now, I want to style an element called David H6. Or, you know what? Let me remove the style here. And let me style this element called H1. And I want to use the tag to select it. So if I come here, I will just say H1. And what is the properties, or what are the style I want to give to it? Then I can say the color of the text is equals to gray. and it changes. I can say the font size equals to 200 pixels and it becomes bigger. So I don't want to do that, so I'm going to make it 80 pixels, and this is fine. That is styling by tag. What about styling by class? There is something they call class, and class is a way we used to get elements from HTML, maybe to style it or to give it some, some cool features. Now, to create a class, we come to the element and we say class, and the class name is up to you. Whatever you feel like you want to give the class, fine. And I can call this name or my name. So CSS will need this guy to style it. Now we style tag by just writing the name called h1 because they are the bosses of HTML. But we style class by not writing my name. And if I say background color equals to yellow, it's not going to work because a class is not the same as a tag. Tags are originators of HTMLs. They are a short, the landlords and the first comma of HTML. But class are what we introduced, to identify this particular element. So for us to be able to use our class or to use the class to style our element, we need to add the full stop in front of it. I don't know why they make it full stop, but as you can see, as I click full stop, it immediately recognizes that a class, my name, needs to be given the background color yellow. So that is class for you. Then there is ID. So I'll come down to 86 and I can say ID, which means identifier, and I'm going to give it my name. So if I come here, well, let me use my name. Let me just use name 2. So I can come here. So for name 2, I can write it like this. Background color green. It's not going to work. If I say font size 70 pixel, it's not going to work because name 2 is not a tag and it is not a class. It will work, but it's an ID. ID is a name 2. So for ID, we don't use dot or writing it like that. We use what they call hash. Hash like this. And as you can see, it takes effect. So that is class, ID, and tag in a nutshell. Lastly, we talked about containers. What are containers in HTML and CSS? Containers are like, way of wrapping our code so that it can look more structurable and presentable, giving it a very perfect and a precise layout. So we create a container by saying div, and container has many, I can say class equals to box. Then I want to style this box here. I can give it different, so let me say box. The first thing I want to do is the background color should be black. Now, because there is nothing inside the container, we will not see it because on default, the container, there is nothing. Then we'll talk about width and height. I can say width should be 200 pixels and height should be 200 pixels. And what do we have? A box. So inside the box, we can have things inside. So if I have an H1 and I say money, so I want to give it a class, I want to give it a styling. Sorry, so I can change the colors. As I said, style is equals to color, color is equals to red. So like this, it becomes red. Now, can we see that the H1 is outside the container because this is where is the inside of the container here. Anything in between this opening div and the close div is the inner inside of the container. So if I come here and I put it outside here, boom, we'll have it on top. But to get it to stay inside, we have to check that we're inside this opening. So if I come here, finally, it's inside the box. And that's container in a nutshell. We can do a lot of things with container and so many more. Week 1 was a very, very, very great class. It was interesting and it was challenging. I would love you to just go through the videos, watch them again, practice more, and let me tell you the fact, with time, your hands are going to get better. My name still remains Python V. I'm your instructor for software development class for Kinplus Training Batch 2022. I hope and I would love to see you in the next week lecture. Goodbye. Have a lovely day.